asking for help, and like I couldn't find my cane, and I'm like, I don't know how to get back to my bed. I have no cane. And the helper was like, well, you walked. I'm like, well, what do you mean I walked? I don't.
That doesn't make sense.
Am I high?
Right.
I didn't know what was going on. And then I covered my right eye, and I'm like, oh my God, I can see. And then I was thinking, well, when this stuff wears off, maybe I'll be sick again. Like I wasn't sure. And then I had this moment that I just knew I couldn't wait for the other shoe to drop. I couldn't manifest it back. So there was this moment of clarity, and I'm like, no, I'm healed. This is it. And I left that center.
That's what. How long had it been since you could see out of your eye?
Like 8 years. So
and when was the last time that you were able to walk without like by yourself, like without a cane or somebody helping? Wow. Well, I'm just going to dive right into it because we've talked a little bit before, and this is kind of a controversial topic. What is a shaman?
What is a shaman?
Let me ask you this, is there such thing as a shaman?
So in the Western culture, we have shamans. A shaman is a term that Western culture kind of made up, which is a natural medicine doctor. In different parts of the world, they're called different things. So Westerners kind of adopted this name of shaman. Native Americans kind of picked up that name, and it's kind of just traveled. So depending on what country the doctor is from, our medicine doctors, our medicine men and women. In Colombia, they would be called a taita. In Brazil, they're called a pajé. In Peru, they're often called a curandero or curandera, ayahuasquera. There's many, but shaman is not one of them in the indigenous communities. It's kind of a made up name, but we use that name because people know what it means. If I was speaking to someone and I said, "Oh, the pajé is coming," they'd be like, "What the hell's going on?"
Right. So it's an indigenous medicine man is kind of where you're going with it. Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you the second question here. What is ayahuasca?
So ayahuasca is an Amazonian tea, and the tea is comprised of two plants. One is a capi vine and one is the chacruna. The capi vine is what contains the MAOI inhibitor, and it is the vine part. And then when you put in the other part, which is where the DMT is, it's in the chacruna, and it is what gives you the visions in the medicine. So wait,
what's
plants came together?
Yeah, I'm going to ask. I want to know about that. What's an MAO inhibitor?
MAOI inhibitor it prevents you from absorption. It will help the medicine last longer. So if you take the MAOI, your medicine is going to last longer. If you take regular DMT, it's a very short experience. So the two plants together combined is what causes the purging too. The vine is what causes the purging. So Colombian medicine can be quite purgative, and it has a little more capi, and some of the traditions use a little bit more of the chacruna. The Peruvian tea isn't generally as purgative as a Colombian tea. All of these beautiful tribes make the medicine a little bit different. They might pick it at a different time of the day. They're cooked for different lengths. Some of them use more vine. Some of them use more chacruna. So it's kind of like grandma's spaghetti sauce, the same ingredients, but it all tastes different. It all has a different effect. And the beautiful thing that I love about ayahuasca is, unlike a lot of other medicines, you can have a room of 35 people drinking the same medicine, and every single person will have a different experience. Many medicines, we're all going to kind of have similar experiences. It kind of plays out the same, and ayahuasca is not like that. Sometimes your experience might be very visual. I've had many ceremonies where I don't have any visions, and it's more of a physical thing, or a download, or knowing in your heart. So ayahuasca is pure magic, and it really goes where you need.
Kind of like my experience with Yahe, the Colombian brew that you're kind of referring to, which is more purgative, is distinctly different than what the Brazilians have been able to create. And it's wild to me that, you know, people really identify with these different brews. I mean, in very unique ways. You know, for me, what the Brazilians have created is like, I don't go to ayahuasca necessarily to have like a euphoric, you know, kind of party experience, but for whatever reason, not to say that I haven't, you know, had, you know, traumatic experiences with ayahuasca. I mean, some of it is heavy. But with the Brazilian blends, it's extremely visual, right? Like it's one of these things where it's like a DMT trip in some regards, where it's that visual. And there's not a whole, for me personally, there's not a whole lot of purging to it. It's not to say that I don't purge, but in relation to something like Yahe, where I have very little visual experiences and it's extremely tough on me physically. But also an important point too is kind of like how you're coming to the plant medicine too, you know, is going to have a distinctly different, you know, it's going to give you a different journey. I was talking to our friend Christoph, the other day, and, you know, he's an energy healer. And what he was saying is that, you know, if you're getting things into alignment beforehand, and, you know, we'll get into it, you know, while we're talking here in a little bit, but, you know, diet and stuff like that plays a lot into it, you know, what's going on in your life at that particular time. And Christoph is saying, you know, if you can really concentrate on, you know, getting this energy work done beforehand, a lot of these things that the plant medicine, that ayahuasca has to purge from you, can be done beforehand. And I experienced that in a very dramatic way, before I sat with you guys, and I was getting combo done in Nosara, and I was able to go significantly deeper. I did a mushroom journey after the combo, and it was one of these things where I would have never even contemplated going that deep. But, you know, the individual that I was working with was just like, I mean, you've done so much work. You're so clean right now. You know, he was like, go as far as you can, go as deep as you can. You're at a good place mentally. You've done a lot of work with purging this negative energy. And it was some of the best advice I'd ever gotten in my life, was what do we do beforehand? And then there's a whole lot that you want to do afterwards, as far as like integration and stuff like that. So do you have any thoughts on that? Like, what is it that we should kind of be getting into alignment before we're drinking plant medicine?
So there's a few things before you come into medicine. And one of them is, why am I coming into medicine? And to get really clear about that. To get really clear about why now. And so that when I do video calls, which I do with everybody that signs up with me for the first time, the first thing I ask them is, why now? And they'll say, you know, so I've been researching for years, and you know, I've had several opportunities, but why now? There's always a why now. There's always a why now. And so when you really dig into the why now, maybe it's you just feel like you're stuck, like you've been on a spiritual journey, but you meditate, you do the things, and you just can't seem to break through that little portal that you can access pure consciousness. And when you get clear with that, so for instance, say I have a trauma in my life, you know, I like to say to the person, how is that trauma showing up in your life today? And one of my teachers had said that to me, and it was really beautiful, because then you can really create a beautiful intention for yourself. So maybe I had abandonment issues. Maybe my dad left when I was 5 years old. And as an adult, I'm really jealous. I'm really jealous when my boyfriend leaves the house. I want to look at his phone. It's all abandonment issues. So we see how the trauma is still affecting our life today. It's not the trauma anymore. It's how the trauma stored itself in our body. It's not the act anymore. It's how is the trauma showing up in our life, and we need to go back to the root cause of that. So I think coming to the medicine with a really clear understanding of why you're there, and really, really be honest about that. And then to really have some sort of energy exchange with the medicine. So for your diet, you want to go in giving the medicine what the medicine is going to give you, like a mirror, right? So you want to give yourself some healing. You want to eat well. You want to care for your body. You want to take time for self-love. You want to have a nice bath. You want to spend time going for a walk in nature. Those are the things that prepare you the best for going into the medicine, because we're having an energy exchange with the medicine before we drink. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you a quick story too before you finish that thought. When I came down to Costa Rica initially to drink medicine, which was it was 2 years ago, almost like I guess it's like 2 years ago to the week, and I've told you before, I never had wanted to drink ayahuasca. It was the barrier to entry was too much for me. I hate being sick. It's like one of the reasons why I don't really like, drinking alcohol. I just don't like, I don't like that feeling. And that seemed to be what a lot of people were experiencing. But I'd had this, when you call it a traumatic experience, everything's relative, right? But for me, it was a relationship that I didn't see ending. And I was in so much pain that I was just like, I need this. I was in this funk, this like depression. And it was quick. It was like that. It was like in the course of like a day, I went into this like, downfall, and I was like, I gotta switch my frequency, and I need to get out of this negative thought pattern. And I think I'm going to go and I'm going to sit with this medicine. So I booked a flight. I went down to Costa Rica. Like, it was like, wham, bam. It was instant. Like within a week I was down there, and I couldn't get into the center because everything had just been shut down in Costa Rica. So it was this time of the year, 2020, and Costa Rica had just opened. It was one of the first countries to open. And I had about 5 weeks before I was going to be able to sit with the medicine. So it was crazy because I knew that I was going to be doing this, and it was a week long. It was super intense, and it was going to be my first time. So I did all the research. I switched up my diet. I was eating super clean. Beforehand, I even went about a week beforehand. I went completely plant-based, and I just kind of got everything in rhythm, my circadian rhythm. I was up with the sun, down with the sun, surfing every single day, doing yoga. It was just like this like perfect place to kind of recharge your battery. Mm-hmm. And before I even got to the center to drink, after a few weeks of just that, like my head, my cognition, my ability to like cope was like, it was to the point to where I was like, I don't even know if I need to drink medicine right now, because all this stuff that I was struggling with just kind of like, the ocean kind of took it away. And I went obviously anyway and did a bunch of deep work, but it was one of these things where I could just see how much easier my life was in general, let alone like when everything's magnified when you're on plant medicine. And obviously, I was fortunate enough to where I got to drink several different kinds of plant medicine throughout the week. Like you were referring to earlier from different traditions, South America. And I was so grateful when we got to the Ahe night that I was as clean as I was, because it was one of these things where I couldn't imagine how tough it would be if I didn't, get all of that into alignment beforehand, because it was tough, even after a week of, it was at the very end of this retreat. And, it was one of these things to where beforehand, I can't stress enough how important it is, when you come to work with this medicine, that you really get everything, into alignment. And it's funny too, because I'm going to just say this and then let you keep going. But, a lot of people that I know, that are fascinated by plant medicine, especially ayahuasca, but have never done any kind of, call it like a psychedelic, right? They're like, I don't do drugs. And we've talked about this before, where I was like, I don't think you guys really understand what ayahuasca is. Ayahuasca is a medicine. It actually heals you. You have to get off of the drugs before you sit with ayahuasca. You can't be on drugs, like especially certain drugs, right? Like you were telling me the last time we spoke, like certain drugs like opioids and SSRIs. Your background is in nursing. So can you just tell us a little bit about what are the things that you absolutely cannot be on before you sit with this medicine?
You cannot be on SSRIs, which are typical antidepressants, because you're taking an MAOI inhibitor. So you can have a serotonin syndrome. You can't be on opiates. You can't be on Xanax. You can't be on any benzos. Which is really why we make sure we have a video call. We do a screening first, and we really have to rely on the person being honest, because sometimes people aren't honest. So when we send out our dieta and our drug and alcohol form, people get pretty nervous because it's very strict, and they're like, oh my gosh, I had a few drinks that's fine. We're always very cautious. We want to err on the side of caution. And we want to scare people a little bit. Like, this is serious stuff. You don't want to lie about it. And I think if we weren't very strict, we could get into some trouble, because ayahuasca alone is very safe. You can drink a liter of it. You can drink a liter of it.
I could imagine that. But yeah,
when I was studying with the Colombians, we had called the big cup, and you drink a lot of medicine, and the medicine is fine. It's never going to harm you. You just have to be safe when you're entering the medicine process. You have to be off meds, certain vitamins like St. John's wort, which is like a natural antidepressant, isn't even good for you. So we really want to come to the table really clean. We want to eat an alkaline diet, which is the dieta food. So the more alkaline you can get your system, the more the plants like it. And it's not to say though, Neil, sometimes you get this last minute call and someone is, 5 days out and they're like, can I still sit with the medicine? Yeah, as long as there's no alcohol, no drug use, for sure. The medicine knows who needs it. And even if your diet hasn't been perfect, but you really feel the call, you can absolutely still come and sit with the medicine. The medicine really knows who's coming to the table and who needs the medicine. So for sure we have people that haven't been able to diet great before they come, and it's okay.
I kind of look at it as like you can do it, if you have the option to kind of switch those. Obviously, like you're saying, there's certain things that you just can't have in your system, benzos benzos and SSRIs, they take a while to get off of, right? You can't just stop it, like certain drugs. But yeah, I've always said it to people before they sit with medicine. It's like, look, when they're asking like, what should I eat? What should I refrain from? It's like, you can, a lot of like, especially with the Brazilians, like you've said it, like you can even drink coffee. Whereas like with the Colombians, with yahe, like spicy foods, coffee, stuff like that, they don't even want you to touch that. If you do, it's not the end of the world, but I think my point is that like you could either do it the easy way or you could do it the hard way, right? Like you can just refrain from putting that in your system. What's that?
It's your level. So
yeah,
like we've spoken about before, if somebody who always eats clean, for instance, like someone who just has a very clean diet, they eat an alkaline diet, that really isn't going to be a spiritual payment for them going into the medicine. They already do it. They might have to like level up, but for somebody who eats potato chips and orders pizza every week, for them, not eating processed food and maybe eating frozen vegetables, is going to be a payment. Right. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think as long as we give the energy exchange to the medicine, so we're really doing something in exchange for our healing. We're really showing the medicine that we're serious and we're taking this very serious. And I think sometimes it depends on the person. Like if someone's super clean and they're like, yeah, I'm going to medicine, there's not the same level maybe as someone who's eaten pizza and they cleaned up their diet. That was really hard work.
Let me tell you this. I eat super clean, and even right now I'm like trying to level up. I'm not even, I want to sit with medicine right now. It's just I'm in Florida and it's just not really, it's not as prevalent as it is down there. But my thing right now is I'm really cutting like everything out, and it really stemmed from my last excursion down to Costa Rica, because I was sitting with you guys and I had some solo journeys that I went on. I was telling you about the mushroom trip and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. My biggest vice is, and I'm fortunate for it, but like cutting out like alcohol or other things really isn't a big deal. Caffeine has always been like my number one vice. So before like I sit with ayahuasca, I always try and just cut it out, just to kind of get to that next level that you're talking about. And sometimes I feel like a dope fiend, because like I'll get like headaches, like I get like super moody. I had like a relapse the other day. I was at my friend's house and they were making it, and it was just, I hadn't drank coffee in a week. And I was like, if I start drinking now, I'm going to go down this, and then I'm going to want it more. And then I'm going to get those headaches again. But before I sit with the medicine, I always try, and it's like, it's like what you're talking about. It's the payment, it's my payment to Mother Ayahuasca. So I also, before I forget here, I want to ask you just about a few things, but before we get any further, you had one of the most amazing healing experiences, healing journeys I've ever heard of. And there's been some pretty amazing things that have happened while I've been in ceremony and friends of mine and stuff like that. But you actually had a terminal illness, and it was one of these things where, being a nurse, in Canada, like you had access to the best, some of the best medicine on the planet, some of the, best doctors on the planet. What was happening in your life at that point in time? And then how did you actually heal yourself?
So going back, it wasn't a terminal illness. It is an incurable illness. Okay. So it's multiple sclerosis, and it's a progressive disease. So I was diagnosed with that when I was, not going to tell you how old I was. I was thinking I was 42.
It's a few years ago.
I was 42, and my daughter was 2 years old, and she's now 13. So there's math for you. And I'd become really ill really quickly. The MS just started ravishing me. I actually woke up blind in my left eye. And so I was diagnosed very quickly. So I was very grateful for that. Within 3 months, I was paralyzed completely on the left side of my body. Our house had to be completely renovated, and we had 24-hour nursing care. My husband worked out of province. I had radical chemotherapy, all the latest drugs. I was on 2 injections a day. I had a PICC line in my chest where they would take my blood and give me all the things like plasma infusions that I needed, and nothing worked. It wasn't slowing anything down. So I started changing my diet. I started eating lots of flavonoids and trying to figure out how I could slow this down. And I just had no luck with that. With the daughter who's 2 years old, it was really challenging because I couldn't be the mother that I wanted to be. I couldn't pick her up. I couldn't play with her. I was drooling half the time, and sometimes I didn't even know who my husband was. I had 13 brain lesions and 2 spinal lesions, and I was on opiates and fentanyl patches. And
what are brain lesions and spinal lesions?
So MS basically takes the myelin sheath off of the wires in your brain. So if you can picture like an electrical wire where they strip off the plastic coating, so underneath you just have bare wires. So that's what MS does. It creates all these lesions. And so you end up with severe headaches. You end up with cognitive, losing your cognitive ability, physical. So if it happened in the center of the brain that it was attached to my left leg, I would lose feeling in my leg. So it was a really dark place for me at that time. I was, meditating. I've been a daily meditator for more than 15 years. And I was doing that. I just couldn't find any relief. I was seeing Native American shamans. I was trying to get some healing. And finally, I found a doctor in Panama who did stem cells, and really good stem cells. So I traveled to Panama to have stem cells, and it was amazing. So I got from the wheelchair to being able to walk with canes. Which
it's super expensive though, right? Stem cells?
$40,000 each round. Yeah.
Wow.
It was super expensive. We had to get a personal loan. And, but it got me ambulating, which was my freedom. It enabled me to do things, to stand up, to go pee by myself. This was a gift.
Wow.
To be able to stand up and pour a cup of coffee. I mean, it gave me my freedom back. It didn't, however, fix the fact that I couldn't see out of my left eye, or that I was in chronic pain all the time. And I relied heavily on opioids and lots of nerve blockers and lots of medication and antidepressants and all of it.
And you need more stem cells because they only last for so long, right?
So after about 18 months, I started to decline. And I phoned the doctor and I was like, what's happening? I'm starting to decline. And he's like, well, you have to come for more. And I was like, wait a minute. That wasn't the deal. We don't have another $40,000. And if we have to sell our home, then what are we going to do after that?
Right. And then you're going to need them again in another 18 months.
And we're going to run out, and then I'm going to be right back where I am anyways. So I really didn't see the point in doing that again, because I knew that it was only going to last 18 months. He said, the second round could last longer, and it just wasn't a risk that I was willing to put my family through. I wanted my little girl to have a home. So while I was still able to ambulate with cane and function, I decided that we would take our family on a trip to Costa Rica. So we came for a couple of weeks and we toured around. And while we were here, I was looking for a meditation group, and I came across the word ayahuasca. So I just started investigating, and the results were staggering. As a nurse, I started just investigating physical healings because I thought I was all good spiritually, which is really funny. But I was studying physical healing, and I found a lot of results, and I was convinced that this would be my last shot. And I was convinced that this was going to heal me. There was no room for doubt. I did not have any room for doubt. I was going all in.
You've done some research, and you set an intention, essentially, is what you're saying.
I was just doing it. Like, I was healing from this. There was no options. I was not meant to be declining. What I didn't know is I had to come off all of the medications that I was on.
Oh, shit.
So that was a lot. I was coming off opiates and SSRIs, and I came off everything cold turkey. Do not ever do that. I don't advise it.
You can have seizures and all kinds of bad stuff.
It was really bad. But being a nurse, I had full-time nursing care with me, so I felt completely safe. It was like I was in a hospital all the time. So I did that, and I got myself 2 ceremonies, and I went with canes, legally blind in my left eye, excruciating pain, 24/7. I was really wondering how the hell I was gonna make it. And I remember thinking at one point, I don't know, man, but I hope this drug will take away some of the pain. Like I know it's like a psychedelic, but I wonder if it will also work as pain relief. That was my, maybe this is gonna help. So, I also didn't realize that to heal physical trauma in your body, you first have to get to the root cause of the spiritual or emotional or trauma that you encountered that got you to this place to begin with. So the first 3 nights were extremely hard. After the first night, I'm like, I'm never doing this again. This is crazy. You guys are puking all over the place. Like, this is nuts. I'm still in pain. It was horrible. It was
How many ceremonies was your first?
4. I did 4. So after the first night, I didn't want to do it again. And then I found myself in the line and doing it again because I had made a commitment that I was going to do this. This was kind of my last shot. So I had some really challenging nights. And on the 4th morning, I found myself in the bathroom and asking for help. And like, I couldn't find my cane. And I'm like, I don't know how to get back to my bed. I have no cane. And the helper was like, well, you walked. I'm like, well, what do you mean I walked?
That doesn't make sense.
Am I high?
Right.
I didn't know what was going on. And then I covered my right eye and I'm like, oh my God, I can see. And then I was thinking, well, when this stuff wears off, maybe I'll be sick again, like I wasn't sure. And then I had this moment that I just knew I couldn't wait for the other shoe to drop. I couldn't manifest it back. So there was this moment of clarity and I'm like, no, I'm healed. This is it. And I left that center.
That's what, how long had it been since you could see out of your eye?
Like 8 years. So,
and when was the last time that you were able to walk without like by yourself, like without a cane or somebody helping? Wow.
Yeah. So it was incredible. And I left without cane. I left in 0 pain. I have never been in pain since I left that day. And, it was incredible. And with that, I also got a host of, this is now what you're going to do. I know now that the reason I had that healing was so that I could go out and give hope to the world, that. And since that time, there's been so much research done on Parkinson's, MS, all kinds of autoimmune disease, Alzheimer's with ayahuasca. It's incredible. It is pure brain medicine.
I've noticed that a lot of people in the United States, as they progress, it's something that's terrifying and rightly so to a lot of people. But Alzheimer's is another one that ayahuasca people seem to do really well with.
Brains, like the dementia, forgetfulness, which is like MS is a brain thing, right? It's neurological. These neurological, I mean, they're really, I'm in 5 years, it's going to be incredible. The properties that they're finding in these medicines, same with mushrooms. It's just incredible.
Right.
So, I came back with a vision in my heart and, I walked in my house and my family was in shock. My daughter, I hadn't been able to take public transit with her for obvious reasons. Getting on the bus was hard. Getting to the bus was hard. And I took a bus with my daughter to the mall for the first time. And
so it's like little things, huh?
We were going to miss the bus and I'm running for the bus and I'm out of breath because I haven't run in many years and I'm crying and all I can think is, oh my God, I'm so grateful to be tired.
Right. Wow.
Grateful that I'm out of breath from running. Are you kidding?
That's amazing.
And, so I got home and I said to my husband, like, we need to move to Costa Rica. And he's like, let's go. So we rented out our house, put everything in storage, and came for 3 months. And it's been almost 4 years.
Wow. So, gosh, I got a bunch of stuff more to ask you, but Om Jungle, I was fortunate enough to sit with you guys. It's how we met. I don't know, probably about 6 months ago. And it's a really special place. There is a noticeable shift in energy as soon as you get there. You're at the top of this like absolutely amazing mountain in Costa Rica, just surrounded by jungle. And when I got to your Maloka, I noticed that like everything was kind of brand new. You know, you have the Maloka, which is kind of the heart of Ohm, and then you have gardens all around the Maloka, all around the property. You've got a cafe that had just gotten built so everybody could eat. There's a pool. Like, this is kind of like just all come into existence within like the past year and a half or so now, I think.
Yeah. So bought the property at the end of January, and then I believe we held our first ceremony in April on the grass.
Yeah, that's when I was there. I didn't know it was that. Wow, amazing.
And so it's been about 19, 20 months, I guess, and it's been a real labor of love. We're really blessed. The land is super magical. We've planted a lot of our own medicine plants all over the property. It's all natural. We grow our own food, and it's deep with deep old trees, and it's really authentic. We built a traditional Maloka with a palm roof.
What's the deal with the crystals that you buried in the ground underneath it? You were telling me about that.
So we, as sisters, got together and really wanted this Maloka to be very special and really blessed. So we buried some very large crystals in the center of the Maloka before it was built, just as the framing was going up. And we also put crystals in all four directions. And then we put grandfather tobacco all around the outside. And we had a little ceremony there, you know, just for the love and to appreciate the land and to give thanks to the beautiful trees. And it was really, really beautiful. So every aspect of Ohm was really created intentionally and really created to do the work that it is there to do. And one of the things that the medicine told me was the medicine must always be the star of the show. You're not to have coffee cups and t-shirts. And those were exactly the words of the medicine.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of my joke now, right? Like, we can't have coffee cups and t-shirts.
No merch. There's no merch store at Ohm.
You know, we have things that the tribes make, like beading and some medicines that are made from the land. But we want to keep it as simple as we can. And we feel like shipping products in on trucks is not what nature wants. So we sell things that are from the land and the crafts that the different tribes make. And I video call every single person that comes into Ohm. I have a conversation with, so that when they walk in that door, we already have a relationship. And safety is first. I really want someone to feel like they're coming home and that they have a safe place to be able to lay it all on the floor.
It was a really unique experience because, a couple of things. One is, you know, when I got there, you know, you and I had talked a little bit, but your whole team and everybody that I sat with, it was undeniable. I mean, we were all introducing each other to each other. We were introducing each other at the beginning of the night. You know, like, you put your bed down. You know, kind of the way it works is that when you sit with the medicine, you're there all night. You know, you start at 6:00 at night, and just kind of get comfortable, get your bed all set up and stuff like that. Everybody's essentially got at Ohm. It's like a blow up mattress. You bring your blankets and a pillow. And yeah. So we're gonna talk about that in a second. And it's not that I'm disappointed, but my experience, sleeping in the Maloka was amazing. But it was crazy because I'd come with a friend, and then over the course of the weekend, and then the following weekend, I was sitting with you guys. Some of these people that are perfect strangers at the beginning of the night, the beginning of this series of ceremonies, you're literally as close to them as you are your closest friends and family. And I mean, people, like, you could have a friendship like that with somebody traditionally, but it would be over the course of years that you build that bond, with a brother or a sister or a parent. But what's so crazy is that you all go through this experience. You all have your own unique experiences. You're all coming there from different walks of life. Some people you meet and they're, a 19-year-old girl at a massage school, and then another guy that's like some CEO of Fortune 500 company. And at the end of the weekend, it's just like everybody's as connected as if you'd grown up your entire lives together, and it's wild. But the other thing I wanted to kind of point out too was that, I'd been to other centers before. When I came to you guys, I drank ayahuasca a number of times. It's probably like I think it was my ninth time when I sat with you guys. And I never experienced this. So basically the beginning of the night, everybody, shows up at a certain time. I think it was like 6:00 at night. And we get our beds ready, and then you go through the ceremony. You all line up, you drink the medicine, and then you go back to your bed, and that's kind of when the journey starts, like a half an hour later, like everything's going to change. And at the end of each night, with the exception of the last night, which was really interesting, but with the first 2 nights that I sat with you guys, I just all of a sudden just woke up in my bed, and it was the sun coming up. In Costa Rica, the sun comes up at like 5:00 in the morning, so like all of a sudden, like the first morning was kind of unexpected. The second morning, I was like, this is, what they do here. But I didn't even realize it. It was like we all kind of fell asleep together like a big tribe. Like some people never get out of their bed that night. They're like just going on their own journey. And there's other people who are up, like myself, dancing all night long and, sitting out by the fire and just listening to Hona plays guitar and stuff like that. And it's just like this, but at the end of the night, at some point, I went and laid in my bed, and I've told you about this. After this series of journeys that I had with you guys, I remember the last night I went and laid in my bed, and I had this experience that I'd only ever had with somebody else. And it's one of those experiences like when you're laying in bed with the person that you love more than anything in the world, and you've got them wrapped up in your arms. And it's just one of these things where you just feel at complete peace with the world because you're just, united with this person. And it was wild because I had this overwhelming sense of peace that this medicine had given me. And I was all by myself. I'm just laying there in my bed. I essentially like just kind of like merged back together with my true self. And I had this euphoric experience where I was like, everything in my world right now is perfect. Like everything is perfect. And I hadn't ever experienced that on my own. Like we're all trying to have these experiences in life by, attaining the next level, getting that next thing, building that next project, right? Meeting that next person, but to have that with yourself. And then all of a sudden it was just like, I just woke up, and the sun's hitting me on my face. And it was one of these things where I was like, I didn't even remember going to sleep, and everybody else is kind of just like going through that same experience. So that was my experience at home, but now you're saying that it's going to be a little bit different because you're actually building out like facilities, lodging and stuff like that.
So for the weekends, we still will sleep in the Maloka. We do have optional beds for resting that in the daytime between our weekend ceremonies. But I have a couple, a doctor that sits with me and some people that can definitely go sleep somewhere else, and they love to be in the energy of the Maloka. It's really, really special. So we'll always keep that available. I think it's one of Om's special things. It's a real safe feeling being there in that energy, and it's very protective.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And
I had a house down the street, and I had, no desire to go sleep, in my own bed.
I want to touch on what you said when you said, you lay there and then you have people from all different walks of life. And I think that's a testament to the medicine. You see, the medicine is all about oneness. It's all about connection. It's about unity. The medicine wants us to be connected, and you come as strangers, and strangers become friends, and friends become family, and we become one together. And that's how we raise the collective consciousness. This is how the planet heals, is when we don't see the other as separate. And when we share an experience like that, all of a sudden we realize that we're all just fucking human.
Yep.
And we're all in it together, and that the medicine wants unity. The medicine wants us to sing together, to dance together, to come in community together, and to heal together. And when we heal together, it's so very powerful at changing the vibration of this planet. And yeah, I'm over the moon excited.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because right now, I don't know if this is the craziest time in human history. It's certainly the craziest time in my life, right? I mean, all the stuff that we've experienced from 2020 to now, and then, all this, there's we've been on the verge of nuclear war on the other side of the world that would just, completely decimate human. If there was ever a time when people needed to sit and go on one of these journeys, what you notice is that perfect strangers become family. It's the other thing too that we've talked about before is, you were saying earlier that everybody has their own unique experience with plant medicine, which is totally true. But there are common threads that go through everyone's experience, and something that is, today it's just as pertinent as ever, but something that I experienced in an extremely deep way, and it's not just with ayahuasca. I've also experienced it going super, super deep with mushrooms as well, and it's forgiveness. And it's forgiving others, and it's also forgiving yourself, right? And it's wild in the way that that moment that I was telling you about, that I had with myself essentially in my bed, on that final night, it was forgiveness. I was forgiving people in my life that I had felt had in some way done me wrong. And it came back to also forgiving yourself for, these low vibrational, energy patterns that you were finding yourself immersed in, like shame and guilt and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And upon doing that, upon having that experience where you forgive others or you forgive yourself, or both, which was what happened in my case, you wake up the next day and everybody had forgiven themselves. Everybody was forgiving other people. And all of these battles that are going on around the world right now, it's just people just need to let it go. Just like you're saying, it sounds so cliche, but we're one. And when you find forgiveness for yourself, a lot of the times you find forgiveness in others. And one of the things that I had experienced super deep on that journey at Om was that Mother Ayahuasca brought me to this little boy, and he was scared. And it was one of these things where I had been telling this little boy horrible things, just all these things in which I would never think that I could ever tell somebody else. And that little boy was actually me. It was like my inner child, I guess. And just all the things about you'll never make it, I'll never forgive you. I was saying this to myself. I'll never forgive myself for certain things that I'd done, but I was telling it to that little child. And then what I started seeing was that once I forgave myself, I started seeing this little child in all of these other people. You know, like we just, at a certain point, like we're adults, but at our core, we're still the same frightened little person, you know, that just needs forgiveness, that just needs love. And it was the medicine that showed me that and enabled me to just let go of all of this resentment that I'd been holding on to. And upon doing that, there was like this weight that was lifted that I didn't even know that I was carrying. You know, like you've used the analogy before, like the backpack, right? Like you've got this backpack on that you've been carrying for years, and it's not until you take it off that you realize how heavy it was. And after sitting with the medicine at home, it was just one of these things where I had this lightness where I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like, it was unbearable, you know. And then when you take it off, everything's good. So it was like, that was like a super heavy moment that I had on the medicine. But then I think what happened afterwards, over the coming months, because I haven't drank since I left your place, and the amount of integration that I've been able to kind of tap into, I think was just as transformative as the experience that I had at your center. And sometimes it's just one of these things where I'm just walking down the street with my dog and I'll get this download essentially from something that had happened in ceremony where it just clicks. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like that just like put everything into perspective. But it's one of these things where like sometimes there's so much information that you're getting, you know, while you're just laying there in your bed, right? That it's just like, what do you do with all of it? To go back and drink more medicine and more medicine. I don't really think that's the answer. The first time that I drank, it was a series of 4 nights. I didn't drink again for almost a year after that. And I'm ready to get back down to Costa Rica again and come and visit you. But at the same time, like the past 6 months since I was sitting at home, it's just been one of the most transformative 6 months of my life, you know, just because I'd given myself that time to kind of integrate all of those teachings, and just kind of come back down to baseline. Part of it was just, you know, just kind of restructuring my life a little bit, you know, just prioritizing what was most important, you know, in regards to family, reconnecting with certain people, taking things out of my diet, putting things into my life. Like, can you talk a little bit about, you know, just the importance after you're drinking? We've talked about a little bit about like what you do in the lead up to plant medicine. The journeys are going to be unique to yourself, but like what should we start to incorporate and think about as far as integration after the journey?
So for me, I like to think of medicine as going to university. And so when you get out of school, you have a list of homework. Yeah. All these things that you learned in the medicine. If you do not do your homework, you are going to come back and drink more medicine, and you're going to repeat the same experience that you had the first time. And so it's super, super important. You have your intention. And if your intention is really in alignment with your heart and what you need, and you met your intention, then you have to work through that and say, okay, so this thing was showing up in my life. This thing we talked about, I was jealous, and this thing came, and now I realize it was from abandonment. And what can I do now? What tools can I put in place to be able to do that? Some of them are very simple, and some of them are working through the way you feel about yourself, right? No more negative self-talk. And what you were experiencing when you felt that euphoria is my greatest wish for everyone that comes to OM, and it's to be able to fall deeply in love with yourself. And it's something that we're never able to do because it feels selfish.
Right.
We're taught that it's, you know, when you just love yourself, like who does that? And we need to get past that, because it's within that in that place of falling in love with ourselves, that we have compassion for ourselves and we allow ourselves grace and forgiveness. And when we do that, we're in alignment to our true spirit, because we are born, our birthright is joy. Our birthright is abundance, and we need to get back into alignment with that. So when we come out of medicine, to try to stay eating healthy is really, really important, because we're doing a service to our body and we're showing the medicine that we're really respecting the healing that we got. It's really helpful to be able to journey your progress, to be able to train your brain when it goes down that pattern, to have the awareness now to stop it. We have a couple really good integration coaches. Anne is a therapist. She's one of our integration coaches. We have Bob. It's super important to be journaling, to spend time in nature. Even if you live in the city, get yourself some plants and take care of them and nurture them, because our connection to the plant world is what's super, super important. We want to be able to get out walking in our bare feet. If you can't do that because you live in the city, get some plants on your patio and really connect with them. They say meditation is when you listen to Creator and prayer is when you speak. And I think we need a balance. And I think some of us have a really disconnected relationship to prayer, because maybe we grew up in a religion. I grew up Catholic, and prayer was something that I was not comfortable with. I wasn't comfortable with using the word God at that time. So I didn't. I used the universe, Creator, whatever that meant to me. But it's important when we think that we meditate. It's very important. This is my perspective, of course. I know nothing. I'll have a disclaimer because I'm just a human.
Sure.
But when we pray and meditate, it's an energy exchange. So we're listening in our meditation, and then we're also speaking. You know what I mean? So it becomes this beautiful energy exchange. So get into a daily practice of meditation. And when I say prayer, what I mean is honest conversation with your highest self, with your Creator. Thank you every day. Let thank you fall out of your mouth when you get out of bed. Thank you for the breath I woke with in my lungs. Thank you that my family woke with breath in theirs. Let gratitude fall off your tongue the first thing in the morning. And that is really beautiful, helpful for integration, is to stay in that integration process. We want to stay in gratitude. We want to try to keep our bodies healthy. We want to be kinder than we were the day before. We want to be kind humans. And some of us. What do
you think it is that, you see a lot of people, you're talking about having these shifts, like people have these shifts in consciousness. People become more grateful. They become more compassionate, like aside from more of the miraculous stuff, like the healings, like what do you think it is where, people just, that had addictions, right? Like that's something that's like super, super common is that people sit with plant medicine and then they're just not interested in these activities that they once were. Mm-hmm. Drinking out, alcohol, drug use, like these are like a reoccurring pattern, kind of like in the way that like I saw this thread where everybody was forgiving themselves. Even though we take a vow of silence that night, by and large, there's really no conversation going on when you're on in your beds. What do you think is happening within people where there's these like very radical shifts in very short periods of time?
I think there's a number of things. For one thing, the plants itself are very healing. We know that they cause neurogenesis, that there's neuroplasticity. So new pathways are being formed with this medicine. And then on top of that, we have a shift in consciousness. We have a shift in awareness. So when we go back, as you know, when you visit some of our traumas, you're not in the trauma like you were when it happened. You get to see things from the observation standpoint. It reminds me of that Christmas Scrooge movie where he goes to visit and then he sees the conversations that were had.
Right.
Because you're seeing the full picture and you can clearly see, like, I was an asshole. But it's not hitting me the same. I get the whole picture and I now get an opportunity to change because now I get it. I get the whole picture. So I think there's two things that happen. And one of them is a shift in consciousness and awareness. One of them is feeling the great love that you actually have for yourself and know that you have a plan and it's okay to take up space in this world. And it's okay to just say no. We don't always need a reason. Do you want to do this? No, I'm not going to do that. And to really be in our own truth. And then the medicinal benefits from the actual plant. So I think a lot of beautiful things are happening as long as we stay open to receive them, which is keeping our vessel clean, keeping our mind clean, trying to limit our time on social media, trying to watch things that are good for our brain. And do we slip? Of course we slip. We're human. And we mustn't forget that we came here to experience all of this emotion, messy, all of it. And it's okay. Because now when we slip a little bit or do something that someone might think isn't so nice, but now we have awareness of it. And
you know what else is really interesting is those ceremonies started giving me different tools to use in my life. And, another thing that we've spoken about before, and the indigenous have these beautiful traditions that they show us in the way that, they kind of set the precedent as to how we enter the space, how we come into the Maloka. We talked about different stuff to do as far as preparation with diet and lifestyle and stuff like that. It's a tone that they set, right? And one of the things that I'd noticed, it was extremely prevalent when I was at home, was that, the Brazilians, what's the proper way to pronounce it? Is it Yawanawa?
So the Yawanawa tribe, yes.
Yes. Yeah. They, their music was absolutely like next level. I mean, just extremely accomplished musicians. And when they were playing music, and, obviously I was super deep on ayahuasca, I started to sense just how therapeutic just sound was, right? I've gone to sound baths and, sat in ceremony before, but whatever it was that the precedent that they were kind of setting, in which it almost sounded like they were channeling prayers from the divine. That's with the guitars and the drums and it was amazing. So I started noticing that just by sitting and really kind of absorbing that sound, that had some kind of I can't put my finger on it, but it had some kind of noticeable therapeutic shift within me. And then there was something else that they were doing where they had, they had the air that you were breathing in. It was, the Palo Santo and incense, and the fire was super, super powerful. On my second night of ceremony, and, she speaks Portuguese. She's part of your medicine team over there. She was able, I went and talked with her, and I said, this next cup that I drink tonight, because you drink several times. If you feel called throughout the night, you line up in the beginning of the night, and then you can come up again. And I really wanted to go deeper. So she conveyed to Hona, who was serving the ayahuasca that night, that I wanted to go a little deeper. So he actually gave me a different cup. Instead of the shot glass, he actually gave me a bigger cup. And then Anne told me, she said, if you go and sit by the fire, it's actually going to intensify the medicine. So if you're going super, super hard, kind of stay away from the fire. If you want to go deeper, if you want it to come on stronger. And then I started doing this thing that I'd been told, where there were certain things in my life that were no longer serving me. There was people and situations, and I was told to just take those thoughts and put them in the fire, right? And they'll no longer cease to be, in your life. And it was an extremely powerful moment, because there was, every night I went to the fire and I gave something up. And then the one of the last huge components that I was really learning from the Yawanawa was rapé, which is another plant medicine that is extremely important in my life even today. It's something that I use on a daily basis, and actually really look forward to. It's actually one of the reasons why, instead of having like a beer or something like that at night, I kind of just like refrain, and I found myself like drinking more tea and stuff like that, just because several times throughout the day I sit with rapé, and I notice that if I'm keeping myself super clean, it somehow works with my system a lot better. If I have a glass of wine and then rapé, it doesn't really work. And
alcohol and medicine don't mix.
No, it's crazy. It's really crazy. But, we've kind of touched on a bunch of stuff here, but I kind of wanted to get your take on, and if you can kind of just like describe like what is rapé, what is hapé.
Okay.
Yeah.
So rapé, in the Colombian, Ecuadorian, and Peruvian traditions, it's called hape in the Brazilian traditions because they don't pronounce the R's.
Okay.
So Rona is Rona, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Hape is an indigenous tobacco snuff. It is made with organic tobacco, and then depending on what herbs, so it's the ash of a tree, the sacred tobacco, and then an herb blend. So sometimes that herb might be eucalyptus. It's used for sinus problems and headache. Sometimes it's mint, which is good for glands. Sometimes it's a seed. So they all have different properties. The rapé is very good for decalcifying the pineal gland. It's super good for meditation. The best thing.
It's amazing. It's amazing for meditation.
It's an amazing medicine for meditation. Its biggest component is its grounding, because it's from the earth and because it's from the plants and the ash and the tobacco. The tobacco is one of the most widely used in all indigenous communities healing tool. The smoke of the copal or the sopa or Palo Santo, smoke and tobacco have been used everywhere for healing. This type
in hape though, we're not smoking it. It's you'll see the shaman kind of like administering it, or you do it yourself.
You have the tobacco leaves, you have the ash, and you have the herb, and it gets roasted, and then it gets ground up into a very fine powder, and then you apply it with a tool called a coripi, which is a self-applicator, or a tepi, which is a serving applicator. So the medicine is blown into the left side of the nostril and then the right side of the nostril. How I was trained to serve hape or rapé was on the left side. You want to set an intention of something you no longer need in your life, something that is no longer serving you.
I did not know that. Okay.
And then as you blow the right side, you bring something into your life. You don't want to leave it unbalanced. So when you release something, you want to bring something in. And sometimes for me, it can be very specific. I'm like, this irritable attitude is not serving me anymore, and I want to bring in more compassion for myself. When I can't think of an intention, it's always love and fear, because those are our two paramount emotions. The beautiful thing about hape,
fear first and then love.
Left first. Yep. Left is release and right is bringing in. The beautiful thing about that medicine is whether you're using it to help you ground, if you have anxiety and you find yourself building, rapé is going to bring you into your body like nobody's business. It's going to burn a little bit. It's going to make you tear. And that's what being in your body is like. So if you're... I'm more nervous
to get served hape from somebody like Papa, like... than I am when he gives me the ayahuasca.
Yeah.
The hape is an extremely potent medicine, and it's not psychedelic. You're not going to go on a journey. I've had really intense experiences on it, but I mean, yeah, it's tobacco.
It brings you into your body. It helps you meditate. It clears the pineal gland. Some of the eucalyptus can heal like chest infections. Some of it's antiviral. The beautiful thing about this medicine is it gives us a tool to have a practice every day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we sit down, we take a minute to ourselves. We always thank our Creator and the plants for the beautiful medicine and the healing that the medicine brings us. And we give ourselves space to have a little ceremony for 2 minutes. And to have a practice is a lot for being on a spiritual path. We take time to give thanks. We take time to sit in silence. And I think in this busy life that we lead, it's really beautiful to take 2 minutes just for ourselves, to have a little bit of medicine, bring ourselves back into our body so we can continue doing the human work that we're here to do. So in a nutshell, that's Rapé.
Okay, so that's Rapé. I wanted to get 2 more now because these were really important in my in preparation for what I would highly recommend that if people are especially going to Om, if they have access to combo for example, if there's somebody in around us when we're in Costa Rica, it's relatively abundant in comparison to anywhere else, but Rapé and we just went over that combo, and Sananga. Sananga was, I think the last time we spoke, was one of the most painful experiences of my entire life. It doesn't last long, but time is a funny thing, right? I think it was Einstein who said, time is relative, right? You sit next to a pretty girl on the bench for, a minute. You sit next to a pretty girl on a bench for a minute, it feels like, or you put your hand on a hot stove, right? For 5 seconds, it feels like an eternity. And, you sit next to a pretty girl on a bench for 5 minutes and it feels like a second, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to, sorry, I just had to get that right. When it comes to Sananga, it's one of these things where I'll let you get into it, but, they're drops that you put in your eye, and I had 3 drops put in each one of my eyes after I'd done combo, which was, that was a really intense day. And then I did like 3 days back to back. What was going on when this shaman was putting these drops in my eyes? Because it felt like it lasts for 3 minutes or so, but it's the most intense pain I have ever felt in my entire life. On a pain scale of 1 to 10, it's a
promo for Sananga.
Yeah, it's a 15, but holy shit, afterwards, it's one of these things where I think I was telling you the last time, like, there was several people after I'd done this process, combo and Sananga, that had no idea what I was doing that day. And they were, just met them in town. I was in Nosara, and they were like, what happened to you? Like, your disposition is totally different. Like, you're calmer. Your eyes are different. They're clearer. What is going on with Sananga, and what in the heck is combo?
So we'll start with Sananga.
Yeah.
Sananga is made from a tree root.
Okay.
It's an extract from a tree root. Sananga was used by the indigenous for many different reasons. One of them is for hunting and seeing well at night. So it actually clears the eyes. It helps clear off all of the, not just the physical toxins that are going into our eyes all day with pollution and all of that, but our spiritual eyes, the Facebook and toxicity that we view. You can imagine how many things in a day our eyes filter.
Yeah.
So these are the spiritual windows of our soul. So Sananga is a spiritual eye cleanser and is also a physical eye cleanser. There have been studies done on Sananga that it actually is healing cataracts. I know several people that wear glasses every day and did a treatment of Sananga, which is every day for 30 days, and they don't wear glasses anymore.
Ooh, that's a commitment.
It's commitment. There are different levels of strengths, actually, Neil. So you can get a weaker one and start with the weaker one, because then you'll want to do it more than once.
Right.
And Traditionally, your eyes are closed, you're laying back or sitting up, and you put one drop on closed eyelids, and then you open your eye.
Oh, I can feel it already. Yeah.
And then you roll your eyes inside so it gets all the parts. And typically it's about 90 seconds of real intense pain and then about 90 seconds of mediocre pain. And how I look at it is you can do anything for 3 minutes. What can't you do for 3 minutes, right? So it's very, very beneficial. It really clears the eyes. Real time, if you have blue eyes, green eyes, brown eyes, your eyes will look much clearer after, and you can see better because it's cleaned all of the crap that we collect. So that in a nutshell is Sananga. They use Sananga all over. During our week-long retreats, we offer combo before we do ayahuasca. So combo is served in the morning, and then you rest, and then we have ayahuasca at night.
So combo is not a plant medicine, right? Is
an amphibian medicine.
An amphibian medicine, just from frogs, right?
From frogs.
Yeah.
So the frogs have these glands, and they have secretions, and the secretion gets taken off. Are the frogs all right? By the way, does it hurt the frogs? No, not at all. Not at all. And in Brazil, I had a friend who was there, and like the frog was sitting on her leg.
Okay.
And so the frogs are not hurt. As soon as the secretions are taken off, the frog will just make more. So what happens is they use an incense stick and they burn your portals, and usually it's 3. And the burn is so minor, it's only supposed to burn the very top layer of skin. So the burn is not hurting you at all. It's just making an entry place for the medicine. I
had a lot more than 3. Each session, it was like 12. I had some on my ankles and some on my shoulders.
Who you're sitting with, but with indigenous tribes, they usually do not do more than 3 or 4.
Really?
Yeah. And they're usually done in certain spots. So it's usually on your arm or on your ankle.
And this is not, it's another thing in the same sense as like hape. It's very different than hape, but it's not psychedelic.
It's not psychedelic.
It is intense.
It is known as the vaccination of the jungle. So combo has 50 peptides in it, minimum. Combo can help with parasites. It can help with mold poisoning. It can help with heavy metal buildup in your system. It can relieve inflammation in your joints. It has a number. There's so many health benefits to combo.
I had some cuts. I was telling you about the last time, but I had a cut on my arm that was pretty good. You know, I didn't need stitches for it, but I did the combo with Paolo, and I don't know, like I felt like Wolverine, you know, like I was like, everything was like, even in Costa Rica, you get like, when it rains, you get like all the bug bites and stuff like that. And sometimes like the jungle isn't necessarily the best place to heal open wounds. And my bug bites would get all infected because I was going in the water, going surfing and stuff like that. When I did combo, everything healed like that. It was wild.
It's an antiviral, antiparasitic. It's amazing. It will cleanse you.
Anti-inflammatory.
Anti-inflammatory, will take inflammation down in the joints. It's a really, really beautiful medicine. It's not a psychedelic. It does create a purge.
Yeah, that's intense.
You fast, and then you drink a liter of water, and sometimes the water has papaya in it, and sometimes it has another plant that is almost like a uka. And so you drink this liter of water, or 3 liters of water.
Which is a lot of water.
Which is a lot. But the purge isn't a nauseous kind of like build-up purge. It is fast and strong usually.
Yeah.
And you're going to feel the heat come up. You're going to feel the heat, and then you're going to have a purge. It can take a lot out of you. But
yeah, you're done for the rest of the day usually.
The following day, you feel really energized. You feel really clean. You feel better. You feel more limber. So there's so many beautiful medicines,
and it's interesting too that that there's certain medicines that interact really well together. Like I was telling you, I did Kambo and Sananga back to back. So for 3 days, I went and sat with Kambo, and then when I was done with the Kambo, basically the way that it works is you sit in a chair, and then you're whoever's administering it, the shaman gives you the water. You basically pound it, right? And then he makes these little burn marks wherever. It could be on your ankles, your arms, your chest. There's an element of therapy to it, too, because I sat there for a while. I know not everybody's like this, but I sat and I talked to Paolo for a while, and we talked about my intentions, what I was sitting with Kambo for, and based on that conversation, he kind of decided where he was going to administer it. And I think that, your heart rate speeds up. There's a lot of things going on inside of you. So what I've been told is that, like, when you're getting Kambo on your chest, your shoulders, it's different than if you're getting it in your ankles. But essentially what happens is, you sit there in this chair, you drink the water. After you drink the water, he makes these little burn marks on you. And then it looks like a gel, right? He just basically puts this, it's a frog. What would you call it?
So it's a frog secretion.
Yeah, and he puts it on those burn marks, and then it takes like a couple minutes, and then all of a sudden, you start sweating profusely, your heart rate increases, and I was purging, it was a lot of the water and stuff like that. But all of a sudden, I just felt all kinds of stuff leaving me. I'd been fasting for like a day beforehand. They kind of mandate that it's like 12 hours. But there was like, I don't know if it was like an entity release or what, but there was a release of energy that was one of the most profound and noticeable shifts that I'd ever experienced. And it's not a long journey like ayahuasca is, where you're committed for hours and hours and hours and stuff like that. This is, it's outpatient surgery kind of, you go there at 1:00 in the afternoon and you're going home at 3. So I did the Kambo, and then I'd go and basically lay on a bed that was right next to the chair, kind of get back down to baseline, and then did the Sananga right after the Kambo. And when you talk about like releasing trauma, aside from everything else that it was doing, from a more physiological, with anti-inflammation and stuff like that, there was, that night at home, I felt like I was floating like this far off the ground, like the next day, it was just, another kind of backpack moment where you just felt like completely different to the point to where like there's people who are like, what happened to you? There's a shift that took place. But I guess my point to the Sananga and the Kambo thing is that there's certain medicines that are very symbiotic, and rapé and ayahuasca. And these are, if you're really looking to kind of get the most out of those journeys, sitting with Kambo, and if you're brave enough, Sananga as well, before you go into these plant medicine ceremonies, you can get rid of a lot of this, trauma, energy, just kind of cleanse your body, so that when you go and sit with the plant medicine, a lot of that work has been done ahead of time. And I didn't realize how important that was until this last go around when I was down in Costa Rica with you guys. But it's so important, and what you're saying is you actually do Kambo. You have some, because I did this outside of Om, but you had somebody. It was actually the guys who were, facilitating your ceremonies, your ayahuasca ceremonies. They were also doing the Kambo as well, right?
Yeah. So Mary and Anka are the same. So when they come, usually for longer retreats, they'll start the morning with Kambo, and it's a very common thing to start the morning with Kambo. and then you do the medicine that night. It's a real cleansing of the body, of the spirit. And if you work with the Brazilian tribes and the Ecuadorian tribes, when the combo is given, they can tell by your purge, actually, the state of your body. Some people will have a very dark yellow purge, and that is a liver flush for sure.
They read it. Yeah.
And then if it's really dark, you've been carrying a lot of stuff for a long time. And I mean, people go in there fasted, so it's not like they have stuff in there. So it's really beautiful to go through that transition. And when you say people see you and they're like, hey, you're different, I always love to say, like, no, I'm just more me than I've ever been before.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's what's happening. You're just becoming who you were always, you're just remembering who you were. Mm-hmm. It's never a transition to somebody new. It's a transition to you, and it's a transition to that little boy, and finding that joy again that life once brought you, and to connect with that. So, yeah, these medicines are very special to my heart, and I have the best job. I get to see people in the morning, and I am there almost every single ceremony to register. And if I don't sit, I'm there to give everybody a hug on their way in. And I'm there at breakfast the next day to greet everybody and say happy birthday.
So how many ceremonies do you typically have in a month? I know that there's an ebb and flow to the year, but now that we're kind of going into the high season, what do you have kind of coming up right now?
Typically, for this month of January coming up, for instance, we have a weekend. We have a night journey, a mycelium night journey happening. We have some toad ceremony happening. We have a weekend with the Shinanawa happening, and we have a week long. So we're pretty busy.
When is the week long? Because this is kind of new for you. You haven't really. They're typically just, so one or two nights.
Do weekends where everybody kind of stays together. So we've only had 1 week long, and that was in September with the Yawanawa. So we're really, really excited now to be hosting the Shinanawa. So they reached out to me. They're a tribe from Brazil. The Page, or the shaman, we'll call him, was born into the title of Page. So since his birth, he was being groomed as a shaman.
Wow.
So he has been on this path since birth. He has been serving medicine for 16 years. He and his wife will be coming to Om to share their wisdom with the medicine. It's incredibly, I feel so blessed that I get to kind of travel around and to build these bridges with these indigenous communities so that their wisdom isn't lost. We get
when is this week long?
It's January 20th to 26th. So in that week long, there will be 3 ayahuasca ceremonies. There will be 3 deep integration sessions. There will be hape ceremonies. There will be wisdom talks and teachings. There will be sound healing, all organic farm to table food, really cool little pods to sleep in, and immersed in 17 hectares in the jungle of a beautiful working organic farm with monkeys and toucans and tapirs. We just had like a little piglet tapir running around the other night, so it was really cool.
And dogs? You had some puppies there the last time?
We're really open.
It's like a Disney movie.
So yeah, we're really, would love to invite anybody that wants to come and join us for that week long. It's very special. We don't have any other bookings with this tribe. It's their very first time out of Brazil. And so we're super excited. This Page served medicine for 16 years in his village. He just got permission after 15 years of serving medicine to leave his village to serve medicine.
Wow.
That's how serious their medicine is, and they believe on healing through the lens of joy. They believe as a Western culture, we love to sit in our suffering, and they don't understand it at all, because they believe that all problems can be healed through love and joy. And
I love sitting with the Brazilians. They're my favorites. Not to discount anybody else, but for me personally, like I it's like you're saying, like you're healing through joy, and they're medicine is distinctly different from anything else that I've drank. It's for me, it's more euphoric. Not to say that's for everybody, but it's also highly visual, and they have just like they play music all night long. I mean, it's.
Neil, if I may, the one distinction that is really my heart, and I love all medicine. I mean, sometimes you need to sit with the yahe and you need to get spun around.
Yeah, sure.
And sometimes silent introspection that comes from a Peruvian ceremony is exactly what you need. What I love about the Brazilians is there is no separation. When you go into a Brazilian ceremony, they are going to teach you their chants. They are going to include you in the process of your own healing. You are going to hold hands and chant and sing in a circle, and you are going to raise this collective energy together as a group. They invite you to come and play music with them. A lot of tribes keep their chants very special. They don't share them with the outside world. And it's really beautiful to feel this inclusivity and really feel like your shaman isn't on a pedestal and you are down here. We are all one in these ceremonies. And healing through joy sounds fun and interesting, but we don't have a clue how to do that. We've been told since we were young, you got to work hard to succeed. Money doesn't grow on trees. Like, if it's not tough, it's not worth it. No pain, no gain. We have this mindset that if things are worth it, it needs to be hard. So we connect to pain very easily, heartbreak, poverty, addiction, divorce.
So if it bleeds, it leads. That's how they, how our media is situated.
Yeah. And we know how to relate to pain. A lot of us don't know how to relate to joy. We forget that joy is our birthright. We came here to be in joy and to be in love. And so anyone that feels the call to come January 20th to 26th, if you reach out through us, I'll be giving $200 discounts for that week. It's a beautiful experience to come and experience these tribes that still live in villages and still drink medicine every Saturday night as a community. I mean, some of them are like protected indigenous tribes in the Amazon, right? Like some of them, that I was sitting with, that's one of the, I think, really, really important aspects of because you and I have some things planned too, and I think we should probably just do another, because this we're already an hour and a half in right now. I know.
But we've got some stuff planned. But one of the reasons why I am so adamant about getting people to Om Jungle in particular, not to say that there aren't other places to sit in Costa Rica and in South America, there's amazing tribes to sit with as well. But I don't know, and before we go, maybe you can talk about this a little bit, just the importance of sitting with a tribe or a medicine team that actually has a lot of experience serving their medicine. They make their medicine. It was amazing when I was sitting with you guys. It was a father and his sons. I mean, it was a lineage, going to the heart of the Amazon.
Mother.
Yeah. And I don't know how
husband and wife, kids.
Yeah, so it's a tradition, and one of the things that I found that was distinctly different with some other places that I'd sat before was just the command over the space that they had, the command over just the security of everybody, because you're really vulnerable, right? I mean, you're like essentially like opening up portals, like when and going on these super, super deep journeys within yourself. It's probably God only knows like all the things that people are dealing with. Everybody's experience is unique. So having people oversee that experience that are capable and knowledgeable, and have a strong integrity. I know that that's really important to you, and you can feel that safety when you're at home. Like I feel secure, and
it's important, Neil. It's one of the most important things when you go to find medicine, whether it's at Om Jungle Medicine or somewhere else. I think you always end up sitting where you need to be for that time. And in that experience, it's like you might have a neighbor that annoys the shit out of you. Maybe someone's moaning and groaning. And you're like, man, I just wanted to have my own experience. And this guy is like, and I always smile the next morning and say, he was your medicine,
Right. He's your teacher, right?
But I will only have people at home that have a very deep relationship with the medicine that they're serving. And that is the most important thing for me is really connecting with people that have a deep connection to their medicine. And I love working with tribes because I think the cultures get lost, the wisdom gets lost. And if it's not for being shared and we share it with our friends, I think these traditions will be lost and they can be. And so it's a really important experience for us. We do have one team that comes to us that is not indigenous. It's Mary Lou and Anka. They are very, very special women. They have a very deep relationship for more than 20 years, sitting with the medicine and training in Peru, and they're teachers there, and they do several dietas a year.
What's a dieta? Because some of us might not know.
Okay, so a dieta is when your teacher goes into the jungle, you will sit in an isolation tent that will have a bed and a mosquito net. There are no walls, nothing. And you are in there for a minimum of 30 days, up to, in some traditions, 13 months. You will sit in there alone. You will get brought a cup of quinoa a day, 1 cup of quinoa a day. You will talk to nobody. You will drink ayahuasca every other day. And you will also maybe diet on another plant, and you will do that for a minimum of 30 days. And you will gain wisdom from the plants, and you will be taught, and you will go through a teaching. And so that's called a dieta. So it's really important when you have medicine servers to ask them, like, have you done dietas? It's a real way to cleanse. It's kind of like having a doctor who doesn't keep taking his continuing education. You want someone who's continually working on their path. I would not sit with somebody who was trained and then never went back to the jungle to do work. It's very important that you know who is serving your medicine. You know how long they've been serving their medicine. You know who taught them, and do they have a current teacher? You only want to work with people that have current teachers, because even the shaman needs healing. Even the shaman needs guidance. So you always want to make sure that the person who's serving you has someone to go to when they need as well. So these are just all the small little details that you learn as you go through it. And at Om, I'm very proud to say that every person we have serving medicine at Om has a very deep connection to the medicine. Most of them have more than 14 years, 13 years in serving. And I like that. And I'm a really curious person. So I ask all the questions, And we're super excited. Mary Lou and Anka, as I was saying, they do something very unique. We just had our 2nd annual Women's Only. So this is hands down, women, like the best thing that you can do for yourself, because we are primal and biological beings. So when men are in a room with women, something organic and primal kind of happens, and it has to. Even though,
because it was men, women, there's old people, kids, like all kinds of people in our ceremony, and it was a beautiful experience. I mean, everybody's everybody's kind of going on their own journey. But to your point, my good friend Daniel, one of my best friends, he actually flew his mom in from Sweden. He flew his mother in to bring to Om. Now, he didn't know if she was going to sit with plant medicine. He just kind of wanted her. He I think his intention was to show her, what he had been learning in Costa Rica, what he'd been learning from your team. And, there's other stuff that you can do if you're not feeling the call to plant medicine, and there's energy medicine. And there's, like you're talking about, there's this crazy frog medicine that we do. And, there's meditation and yoga, and there's so much going on in your center, in your area. But, coincidentally, while she was there, there was that women's circle, and Daniel's mother had never done yoga. She'd never meditated. She'd never smoked marijuana before, let alone gone on like a mushroom journey. And, she had some things that she wanted to release, and she brought that to Om. And, it was one of these things where you can't necessarily put your finger on it, but she sat with you guys for the weekend. I think it was 2 nights. She may have done a third night, but I think the women's weekend was 2 nights. And it was crazy because she came back and she was like I don't want to make it sound like a miracle pill or something like that, but she was a distinctly different human being. She was so much more relaxed, like Daniel was like, I'm talking to my mother in a different way now. I mean, him and I and you, like we'd all sat, the previous month. And when he brought her down, he was so excited because she was able to experience that. And I'll kind of end with this too. When she sat with the medicine, she was almost, I'm not going to say disappointed because that's not the right word, but she had a nada when she sat with you girls. And for anybody who doesn't know what a nada is, that's when it's the opposite of the experience that I had, like I'm up, dancing and playing instruments and, just kind of out and about, right? In the Maloka. There's other people where they don't necessarily pass out, but they're in their bed doing deep work. Some people are really struggling physically, purging and stuff like that. Some people just can't get out of their bed. And then there's other people which is what happened to Daniel's mother. She drank, the medicine once, not, several times, getting up throughout the course of the night. She drank the medicine and then went to her bed and went to sleep. And she woke up in the morning like everybody else. And then the second night, she did the same thing. And all of these people in her group had these like wild experiences. They're forgiving themselves. They're like, talking to people who had passed away and getting all this closure. And she's like, I didn't experience any of that. But even that, like with that nada, I've been told before, because I've never had one, that it's one of the most coveted things that can happen to you, because that's when the most healing is happening. I can't speak to it personally.
Yeah, in the Colombian traditions, they say when a nada happens, the healing is so profound that you couldn't be awake for it. You literally get to sleep. And if you've ever been on any kind of psychedelic medicine before, you don't fall asleep. You can't sleep on the stuff. So when you fall asleep, you're being put to sleep so that you can get some deep healing done. And on that women's ceremony, there's a lot of women, 1 out of every 3 women have sexual trauma. So we get to come and lay it on the floor and be around other women where we can really say what's on our heart. We can talk about sexual abuse. We can talk about how we don't feel safe around men. We can talk about how having sex makes us uncomfortable. And we can really deal with some of these traumas that have been plaguing us for so many years, and we haven't been able to share with anyone. So having 2 female shamans, having all women, some women might feel like they can't get really deep because they don't know why, but maybe they were sexually abused as a child and the shaman is a male and they just can't let it go. They just can't surrender. So this is a beautiful opportunity. It's not for everybody, but it is an opportunity for women that have had trauma to be able to come and sit with women to take that one element away. So there's one less thing that you have to deal with in that ceremony, and you can just come and feel completely safe. So
I think for her, it was one of those things that where if she had any hesitation, once she found out about the women's circle, it was kind of like, that was like the last little push that she needed. So, yeah, I mean, like, so basically you guys have everything from, weekend, like, or just like, I mean, you can come for a night if you want. I know that you always recommend a couple nights. There's week longs, you know, and like I said, for my group, it was everybody under the sun, was in that group. And we had, you know, some amazing experiences all the way to, you know, what I know Daniel's mother experienced with your women's group. So a super unique place.
We're building a Temescal. Actually, we're having a medicine man from Nicaragua, and he's coming to build a permanent Temescal. So
what is that?
It's like a permanent sweat lodge.
Oh, wow.
We're doing a 10-day tobacco dieta, where you can either use the smoke, you can use rapé, or you can use another form of tobacco. So it's a 7-day retreat that you go into a dieta with tobacco, and then on the last day you have peyote in the sweat lodge. So
really,
all kinds of fun things that are going to be.
When
happening.
is this?
This is in March.
This is in March. Okay. All right. Well, like I said, we have some stuff cooking too, you and I. So we'll get into that, because there's some other stuff that I want to dive into. But thank you so much for spending this time tonight here. And then people want to find you. I know that you've got some social media, Instagram, you've got a website. You want to kind of let us know where to find you?
Yeah,
TikTok?
So omjunglemedicine.com. Om Jungle Medicine on Facebook, and I have this really little young entrepreneur teenager who is doing our TikTok, and she's amazing.
Oh, nice. I think I met her. Okay, so I'll put, she is a special child. That is for sure. She's an amazing human. I'm going to put all of your links in the description, here on our YouTube. And, yeah, and I'd really love to talk.
Find us on Retreat Guru as well.
Retreat Guru.
We're not quite in the algorithm yet, so you type.
You need some reviews.
Medicine, and you'll come up to our week-long retreats. And thank you so much, Neil. Always the best conversations.
Yeah. We're pushing 2 hours right now, so we can keep going. I'm pumping the brakes. So, all right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, Neil.